Okay, control of a virus or control of a population. We have to put this in perspective. Now, I took this Monday night when I was walking on the bike path, and they're saying, keep off the grass due to COVID? Who comes up with this? So let's put this into perspective. So number one, let's look in Sweden. Friedrich Eriksson, director of European Center. The theory of lockdown, after all, is pretty niche, deeply illiberal, and until now, untested. It's not Sweden that's conducting a mass experiment, it's everyone else. And I'm going to show you what Sweden is doing. They are not doing the lockdown. They're isolating people that are sick or at risk. Let's put it in perspective. January to April, this is normal deaths. Normal deaths, there's around 121,000 people died from the flu. Malaria, 246,000. Suicide, 269,000. Now, since January to April, this probably is going to increase because of the stress. But COVID, and this is worldwide deaths, 46,000. So it's not really in an appropriate comparison. So the quality of your life depends on the quality of questions you're asking. Number one, how deadly is the virus? How is the virus identified? We're going to cover that in this quick little 10, 15 minute. Who is at risk and who is not at risk? To isolate healthy people that are not at risk is foolishness. What precautions and responses have been implemented in the past? Think of this. SARS, Ebola, MERS. We have an annual flu vaccine or flu pandemic that occurs throughout our society. So what is going to be the future of this? Every December, are we going to put masks on and gloves and stay 6 feet away? Think of this, okay? It's designed for control, not actual appropriate. Are the authorities providing calm reassurance or are they providing panic? Remember, no one is saying strengthen your immune system. It's don't touch people and wash your hands. The recommendations are by the authorities. Is it based in science or not? Are masks, gloves for the general population isolation, social distancing, is it adding to the health and strength of our population or inducing fear and weakness? Now, does opening the prisons and closing the schools make sense? Think of this. Prison is an easy place to isolate people, and they're allowing them to go. And does closing the parks and beaches make sense? Okay, check out this from the World Health Organization, Tucker Carlson. Brilliant expose. They're saying that now that people are isolated, it turns out that the homes are dangerous. So the World Health Organization said we may have to remove people from your homes. And this is worldwide. If you think they can't do that, can they shut you out of your job? Can they change your entire world? Absolutely they can. Now, quarantine, historically very effective, but you isolate those people at risk or those who are sick. Isolating healthy individuals, never been done before. And then we have this psychotic mayor that's saying, turn your neighbors in. Do you see any Nazi influence in this? Your neighbors are breaking the quarantine, so you must turn them in. Not my neighbors are sick or unhealthy and we need to help them. No, it's turning neighbor against neighbor. A fiasco. Okay, when you look at this, the State Health News. Now, they're saying, but it may be a once-in-a-century evidence fiasco, but they lack the reliable evidence on how many people have been infected. Wait a second, so we're shutting down this without reliable data points? We're totally destroying our economy without reliable data points? How long should the measures be continued if the pandemic churns across the globe unabated? The data collected so far on how many people are infected and how the epidemic is evolving is utterly unreliable. We don't know if we're failing to capture infections by a factor of 3 or 300. And you'll see this. The data points that we're radically altering our lifestyle are not accurate. Closing and releasing hundreds of prisoners, and we're talking 700 out of Cayuga County. Okay, that's in Cleveland. 250 out of Nashville. 300 from New Jersey. They're going to reach up 1,000 people released from New Jersey. And this is a travesty. But you are not hearing this on the news. Our office manager, her daughter plays softball, so she sent me this. I would never look at extratrainingsoftball.com. I mean, but when you find out, you never hear, think of this, you don't hear the man on the street interviews. You know, what's it like to have your restaurant closed? What's it like to lose your job? What's it like to not know when you're going to go back to work? What's it like? Do you think the stress level is up? We already had a high suicide rate. And this, a 15-year-old sweetheart, okay, ends up dying from the stress, single daughter, single mom, It's just a travesty. This is insane. Arresting a paddle boarder in, is he at risk? Is he practicing social distancing? He's not at risk. He's doing a healthy activity. He's outside in the sunlight, getting vitamin D. But then you type it in, you're looking at golfers arrested for violating it. Golfers? Okay, Quebec City, woman arrested. Olympic rugby champion, 2 Fiji rugby players. Do you see any signs where healthy, strong people are going to get quarantined or arrested for not following it? Thank God for sheriffs like this. This is a sheriff from Maine. Now, the governor said they're going to be stopping everybody. This Sheriff Scott Nichols, what does he say when the governor says, we're going to stop cars, we're going to lock them in their rooms, their homes? We are not setting up a police state, period, he wrote. The sheriff's office will not purposely go out and stop vehicles because they're not on the road and stop and ask them why they're out and about. To do so puts our officers at risk. This is not Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia where you're asked for your papers. Insane time we're living in. Sweden did not go along with this. Okay, lockdown, what lockdown? Sweden's unusual response. We who are adults need to be exactly that, adults, and not spread panic or rumors. The prime minister, oh my God, common sense and politics too. No one is alone in this crisis, but each person has a heavy responsibility. And of course, Sweden so far, 3,500 cases, 105 deaths. Masks, you're seeing a big thing about face masks. This was one of the greatest studies out of Journal Infectious Disease. I got it off of the med page. They actually had people with a surgical mask, cough in a plate, with no mask, cough in a plate, with a cotton mask, cough in a plate, okay, multiple times. And these are people that are infected with the COVID. Okay, now, what they found, and these people are coughing in a petri dish, they found out that not only did the mask not work, but they found the inside of the mask didn't have a lot of the virus, the outside did. That's right, the outside that's facing the people had more of the virus on it. Why? Because this is a fragile virus. It dies a little bit over 80 degrees. And if you're breathing always in there, it's going to heat up in there. And that's going to kill it. This is a slide I put up about a year ago. Seeing this economy expanding, we know it's going to crash. And it's going to be bigger than everything. This one, 245 deaths in the United States on average from low education. If you add all of this up, 874,000 deaths from poverty. And is this going to increase? So what is the purpose of this? To hide the fractured economy. And another purpose is this, what's happening in Argentina. Forced vaccination, mandatory vaccination for every adult, woman, and child in order to get a driver's license or passport. That is coming to you. Here's the Donald Trump task force. September 2019, before all this started, they're going to modernize vaccination. What does that mean? Everybody, every time, everywhere gets it. Who's chair on this task force? Secretary of Defense. Okay, then we're looking at Health and Human Services, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Veteran Affairs, Department of Agriculture, FDA, HHS, CDC, NIH. Here's the chief scientist for the World Health Organization. She's saying that we do not have I think we cannot overemphasize the fact that we really don't have very good safety monitoring systems in many countries. And then this was from the same conference, the Global Vaccine Safety Conference by the World Health Organization. She says that the vaccine program is in trouble. Why? We're in a unique place in human history. We have shifted the human population of vaccine-induced to dependency on vaccine-induced immunity. On the great assumption that populations would cooperate. The populations aren't cooperating now. For many years, people lined up for the 6 vaccines. People were there. They saw the reason. We're in a very fragile state. We have developed a world that is dependent on vaccination, and we don't have a choice but to make that effort. They've changed the rules on how to diagnose COVID. That's right. The CDC, and this came out March 4th, and there was another directive on March 24th. That's why you see a spike in the middle of March coming up, because they made it easier to diagnose. Now think of this. It's important to emphasize that coronavirus disease, or COVID-19, should be reported on a death certificate for all people that died where the disease is caused or assumed to have caused or contributed to the death. Here, if you look at PubMed again, false positive rate, 80% in some cases false positive. False positive, what do they say? Conclusion. In close contacts with COVID patients, nearly half or even more of the asymptomatic individuals reported that the activity of the nucleic acid test might be false positive. That's right, up to 80%, between 50 and 80% false positive ratio, and we're shutting down the entire economy. The numbers that they're doing, COVID tracking project, you're looking at overestimation of hospitalizations. Let's just take hospitalizations. When you hear these numbers, like in the United Kingdom, they're saying 510,000 are going to die. And then they initiate all these responses, and then they get data that they say, well, no, it's going to be 5,000. From 510,000 to 5,700. And all of these are being revised. Think how crazy this is. No, Dr. Fauci. So this says right here, this suggests that the overall clinical consequence of COVID may be ultimately akin to those of a seasonal flu influenza epidemic, okay, which is 0.1%. Look at this. These are the death rates. Understand 7,700 people a day die every day in America before the COVID. How do you want to live? Do you want to live like your body is intelligent, that there's a dynamic life force energy inside that you're designed to live on the planet? Or do you want to live out of fear? I'll tell you right now, connect with the divinity inside of you. Your body is made in the image and likeness of God. If you don't understand that, you got a billion years of evolution here. It's an intelligent design. First, put your hope, faith, and trust in the divine within. The reviving and rejuvenating of that spirit of life and the truth within every atom of the body. This will put to flight all of those things that hinder a body from giving expression. The most hopeful, the most beautiful, Edgar Casey. I mean, brilliant. Let's take love each other. Know that you're designed to thrive on the planet. And when a government tries to control you and take over your world and induce fear instead of confidence and love and responsibility, look for the true facts. This is Dr. John Bergman. God bless you, and I love you.